The information presented is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of any Daikin company. This information should not be confused for accounting, legal, medical, or other professional advice. Please seek advice from a qualified professional for any specific questions.
Welcome to the Accelerated HVAC Success program. My name is Ben Middleton. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for the Goodman, Amana, and Daikin brands. Today, we're joined here with Jan Spence. She is a best-selling author, a nationally renowned speaker, actually world-renowned speaker, and one of our trainers that does a lot of training for both our territory sales managers and our dealers. Jan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm best-selling with my family, but thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, how many books do you have out now?
One, working on the second one.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I can't wait to see the next one that you put out. Just going back in your history, you first took the stage with the Jello Corporation, correct?
That is true. So my mom, the preacher's wife, I was always starstruck, and I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, where they film a lot of movies back then. Just a great place. And so they had a lot of film industry there. And so she always wanted to be in a commercial. So she signed up to go audition, and she went into these big Hollywood producers. She was the very last audition of the day. And so she went in, she's got these big, New York and Hollywood producers sitting there, and walked in. She gives them a picture of the family. You had to bring some sort of a headshot. I don't know what she took for that. But so finally they said, "Do you have any acting experience?" And she looked at him and she said, "I'm a preacher's wife. I act every day." So they loved it. They laughed, and we got to do a peach Jello commercial. So we introduced peach Jello to the world. So it was a lot of fun. It was quite an experience.
That sounds like a lot of fun, but you have done a lot of things in your life just with your career. Tell me, how in the world did you get involved in professional football?
That's always everyone's favorite. But again, my mom had the influence. She loved football. So growing up in the South, big SEC fan, Georgia Bulldog fan. And so she would watch football on Saturday afternoons. And I would hear her say while she was watching TV, "That looks like so much fun. I'd like to be able to put the shoulder pads and the helmet on and go tackle people." And so as a little kid, I had that same dream too. So talking about the power of words influencing you, she definitely did that for me. But there was only problem. There was no powder puff. There was no flag football for little girls. So I became a cheerleader. And so that was the closest that I came to being on the football field. But I kept the dream alive, and I told my husband that. And so we would go to NFL games, and I would say the same thing. I'm like, "That just looks like fun, just to put shoulder pads and a helmet and tackle people and run your full body weight. That just looks very stress relieving." And lo and behold, there was an expansion team for women's full tackle football coming to Jacksonville. And I went and tried out, and they'll have to watch my TEDx story to hear the full story. But yes, I loved it. So it was really, really a dream come true. And I think it's a power, it's a testimony to how important our words are and how they can influence other people and encourage them. But also the fact that just when we speak that to other people and we say, "Hey, here's what I'm looking to do," that all of a sudden people can notice those dreams and those hopes and those wishes and those things that you're trying to accomplish. And then when those things come on the radar, you hear about it, and that helps you accomplish your own dreams. So that's a little bit about my story.
So let me ask you, because I hear this from a lot of different speakers out there, and I have even seen it to be true in my own life. Do you write down these little things and then put them on a piece of paper? Or do you have these lists, and then even if you don't look at the list every single day, you find the list a year later and you pull it out of a drawer and you find out, "Hey, I did that. I did this.
Yeah.
I did that."
Yeah, I think it's been said that any dream that's not written down is just a wish. So, in order for it to really become a goal or something that you want to happen, there's just something powerful. I don't even know if I should say magical, but there's something very, very powerful writing those down. So, for years, I've taken every December, and that's when I just set my goals for the next year and write them down. And it is fun. It's fun to look back. I wanted to become financially free by age 40. And I did that, maybe not financially free, but 100% debt free.
Mhm.
So made a step in that right direction just by really writing it down, having some measurability to it, and just knowing that this is something that I want to accomplish. And then I consider it just putting up a mental radar. And so your radar is just going to pick up on those things. You know, if you're looking to buy a new car and you have a certain car that you like, all of a sudden you see them all over the road, right? So it's the same way with reaching our goals and dreams. And I think that when we write it down, all of a sudden the radar, the antenna goes up, and we begin to see and pick up on the resources that are there that can help us get there.
I always think back to the Cheshire Cat. You know, he's sitting there, Alice, and she asks, which way should I go? And he says, where do you want to go? And she says, I don't know. And then he says, well, then it doesn't matter which way you go. And I think that's so true when we think about, just setting that direction and understanding where, even for an entrepreneur, where do you want your business to go? And making sure that you are putting down a destination and then figuring out, okay, how do I get from point A to point B? But without a destination, it doesn't matter which path you take.
So true. And I see so many business owners that are in reaction mode. And it's hard not to be because you're busy and a technician calls out, and then there's some unexpected something that happens. And so we're always in reaction mode. So by having your antenna, having that compass pointed towards a goal, will help you at least begin making those baby steps. And while you may not get there as quickly or as fast or exactly, sometimes that compass will move a little bit, but at least you have that direction. I think so many business owners and entrepreneurs all of a sudden wake up and say, I'm ready, I'm done. And then I think I'm going to give it a year or two, but they have not planned for even their own exit strategy. So much less where they wanted to get. So how big of a company do you want to have? Do you want to buy other companies? Do you want to have an operations director that can take some of that stress off of you? So writing it down, having your compass pointed in that right direction will at least begin to turn your antenna towards that direction that you want to really go.
So let's talk about, not only have you been on a Peach Jello commercial and played professional football and realized those dreams, but you also went out and you and your husband, you started your own business and in a franchise. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. And actually, that's a great example because we purchased a franchise. We were the second franchisee in the country. So it was a franchise that came from England, and it was completely unknown. In fact, there was no code for it. There was no DUNS number for it. It just simply did not exist. It was a service business in the hospitality industry. And so when we started that, we had a very clear 5-year plan. We wanted to buy it, we wanted to build it, and we wanted to sell it in 5 years. And we actually did that in 4 years. And so I enjoyed sharing that story, not to pat myself on the back, but to encourage other people that, what do you want to do with this? How big do you want to be? How small do you want to be? What does your lifestyle want to be? What does that look like for you? And then once we put that in place, from there, we just followed the steps. We put the processes in place. We listened to experts, things like the podcast that you're doing, finding good information that can help you move your business towards that direction, rather than just waking up and going, oh, it's Monday again, and doing the same thing over and over again. By being able to actually visualize and have your eye on the prize, that will structure the way you operate every day when you've got that big overarching goal.
And I've been actually rereading Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I think about the one of his rules that he has is you got to start with the end in mind, begin with the end in mind, and I think that's so important. How many technicians decide, they wake up one day and they say, you know what, if I've kind of hit the ceiling, I can't go any further with the company I'm at, and I'm pretty confident that I could do this. And they go and they start a business. but they have no idea, where
Yeah.
do I want this business to be in 3 years from now, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What is the goal? It's a vehicle, but where
Hmm.
am I taking that vehicle? And we're back to the Cheshire Cat. Well, it doesn't matter. Which way do you want to go? I don't know where I'm heading.
And we see that a lot. And without that plan, if they sell a system to their grandmother and then their neighbor and then their uncle's brother's best friend that they met on a bus one day. And so all of a sudden they're in business without that big plan.
Hmm.
So I think you bring up a really, really good point that it's really critical for individuals to feel the real fulfillment of being an entrepreneur is to know where you headed. And some people say, well, I just want to make money, but it's got to be more than that. How much money? What does that look like from
Hmm.
an expense standpoint? How can you, do you know how to read a balance sheet? Do you have someone speaking into your life that can help you understand the numbers? Are you pricing things correctly?
Hmm.
Or does it just look good when the equipment costs less than what you paid for, than what you charge the customer? So really looking at all those different facets of the business, I imagine, a big machine with lots of cogs, lots of wheels and gears that can turn, and you just begin to tweak those different gears.
Hmm.
And as you tweak those different gears, you're beginning to move the system, your business, into a different place. But without a plan, you're the Cheshire Cat.
So you started the business and you had a plan. You got it there in 4 years instead of 5 years. Did great. What happened with that? Then that franchise company asked you to do some things for them.
Yes. So all of a sudden, I am now helping others grow their business. So that's exactly what happened. So after that, I got that one phone call and they said, hey, can you come help me grow my business
Hmm.
and sell in that area? So I really started helping other franchisees get out there, and cold calling is one of my specialties. So it was a lot of cold calling and helped them by showing them a process.
Hmm.
So I not only wanted to, you've heard the statement, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he can eat for a lifetime.
Hmm.
So these men and women that I was working with, I wanted to give them some fish and produce while I was there, but I also wanted to show them a process that they could use that was repeatable, that worked, that was successful, that would continue to grow their business. And so from there, after doing that for several years, I actually went in to the franchisor and they actually invited me to come and be the training manager for their new franchisees. So I did that for about a year and that was a ton of fun. So sharing lots of war stories, and I could show them all of my scars, both physical and emotional, and help them be better prepared for what they were expecting. Because it can be overwhelming to be all of a sudden you wake up and you're in business for yourself and there's no one to ask, but there's help out there.
Right. So you had the privilege of working with lots of business owners and helping them get their businesses to where they wanted to go, helping
Yeah.
them to just figure out where they wanted to go. And then what brought you into the National Speakers Association? Tell me that story.
So that was that was a 6-year-old dream as well. So not while I was doing the Peach Jello commercial, but I did always love the stage, and so I knew my dad was a preacher, as I mentioned earlier. So I saw him affect change and impact people from the platform.
Hmm.
And so I think that I got inspired by that. And so I had always wanted to do that as a kid. So I was involved in drama. I did little theater after college and in my early adult years. And so it was finally time for me to do what I really wanted to do. I had kind of run my course with helping out the franchise that we had and the franchisees. And I hung my shingle and said, okay, here's my time to get my message out to the world. So tough business to get into and to get started, but absolutely love just knowing that I can impact people, whether it's in a keynote speech where I'm able to ask people questions that get them thinking to
Mhm.
move into a different direction, or training that I'm able to really get my hands dirty and work with people one-on-one or in a small group to help them move the needle with where they want to go.
So you've been in the National Speakers Association for a while,
Mhm.
and I think it was last year you actually won an award.
I did. So I don't even remember the year now, but I got my CSP, my Certified Speaking Professional designation. It takes 5 to 10 years to get. I got that in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. But that was a huge accomplishment and it's based on revenue, number of speaking gigs, your customer reviews, as well as your speaking craft. So your presentation on stage and your skill there. And then I was also inducted into the first Virtual Speakers Hall of Fame. So even from behind the camera, which is not my favorite, I love being in person, but even being on camera, was very honored to receive that. Thank you.
And we've kind of had some fun too. We've been blazing a trail in a whole new world in VR. So we've been having fun with that, learning that platform and seeing how we can do things there.
And super fun. So, Ben, one of the things I love about you is that you constantly challenge me to push to the next level. And so the day you called and said, we're going to do this virtual reality headset thing. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that, but I will learn. And so I think the message, one, it's been super fun. And we've seen so many great the results of doing role play in virtual reality, be able to film people and they can actually see themselves in real time very quickly. And they'll go, I forgot to say my name, or I stood up the whole time and the prospect was sitting down and I just stood there. So they get to see things that they couldn't see in a classroom, which is super cool. And besides that, it allows people to be a little freer because they do have that avatar on. They're not, you can't see the sweaty palms and the armpit stains when they're doing a role play. So that's been super fun adventure.
So as you've always been a very goal-oriented person and you put together all of this direction and you put it out, what's next for Jan Spence? If I were to look at Jan Spence's goal sheet right now, what's the next big thing that Jan's looking to do?
Well, they say to put it out in public, right?
Yes.
And it's still February, so I guess I can put it out there. I have had learning to speak Spanish on my goal list for a long time. So I know a lot of broken Spanish from traveling in Central and South America and absolutely love it. One of our goals for me and my husband is to retire in a Spanish-speaking country. So I want to be better and have a little better grammar. So that's been on my list. So that's that's just something that keeps hanging out there because I've had it on my list for so long. And each year I'll get started, but something gets in the way. But I know I'll accomplish it because it's out there. And so it continues to be out there. So that's just kind of a fun personal goal.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the book that you wrote, and then let's talk about the second book that you're working on.
So the first book is called Cheer on Your Team, 52 Tips to Increase Employee Engagement, Retention, and Loyalty. So it's based on my TEDx talk about my experience wanting to play football, how my mother instilled the power of those words and how that influenced me, how I shared that with my husband, and then what actually happened at the tryouts. I don't want to give too much of a spoiler alert, but it ended up actually making the team, but it was just based on some very simple principles, simple, kind gestures, and just encouraging words that I was able to connect. And the coach noticed that and knew that that was something that we needed on the team just as much as athletic prowess. So through that, it's written pretty much for middle managers and team leaders so that they can learn new ways to connect with their employees. And as everybody knows, keeping and engaging and retaining employees is a huge challenge, especially for contractors and business owners out there right now. So it's just simple things that they can do that just help them connect on a deeper level because we sometimes forget that. We're saying, here's your route sheet, here's the calls you need to make. How did it go? What did you sell? And we get so into the nitty gritty with the details of the business that we forget to connect personally and just say, hey, I know your uncle had surgery last week. How did that go? Or you've got a 6-year-old that's just starting school. How did the first day of school go? So we just forget to connect on a personal level. So that's my first book. And then the second book, don't have a title yet, but it'll be somewhere in the same realm, but that will be about sales. So just really getting down to the sales basics. So I think sometimes we overcomplicate it and we get so many salespeople I see get so worried about the technical side of knowing all the answers and having all the answers that they start forgetting to ask good questions. So the next book will be about sales, how to ask good questions, how to build good rapport, how to connect with prospects on a deeper level that's different from what they've done in the past, so that they can connect and really build that relationship so that they're the chosen provider.
Jan, this has been just an absolute blast. Just walking through this with you. What advice would you give an entrepreneur in the HVAC space, just as we close out this time?
So I'm going to call back to something you said earlier. I think the biggest thing that entrepreneurs need to do, I'm going to give two. I'm going to, if I can have two, I'll
Sure.
have two. One is to really begin with the end in mind. What does this mean for you? We know that entrepreneurs get in business to have more time, money, and freedom. And then sometimes they sit down at the end of the day and they have much less of that.
Mhm.
So, what is it that you are looking for? What does this mean to you? And really, what's that bigger picture? What's something that's personal enough to you that you're willing to commit the resources, the time, the effort, and the resources to achieve that? Something that's bigger and greater, whether that's giving back or providing for aging parents or making sure that kids can go to a good school, whatever that is for you. So for me and my husband, it's giving back. We're very philanthropic, and so that means a lot to us because we know we're making an impact on the world for those that can go and can serve in parts of the world that we can't. And so that's what drives us, and that's what keeps us going. Is we remember this is why we're doing it, so that we can give back. And then the second thing is once you have that big goal, that end in mind, then put the processes in place to accomplish it. Invest in yourself. We know that statistics say that those that allot a certain amount of their income or paycheck every year for their own professional development earn and succeed much more than others by about 10 to 20%. So take the time to invest in yourself, get the processes in place, get the software, upgrade whatever needs to be upgraded, invest in yourself and your company to get to that next level.
Thank you so much. Look forward to having you in future episodes. For all of you out there, if you liked this episode, please go ahead and like it. Also, please make sure that you follow this on YouTube so you can be aware of all of the upcoming episodes that we have. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.